It's Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Corey and Mason.
Hello and welcome to Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast, the podcast made by film fans for film fans. As always, I am one of your co-hosts, Mason Schmidt, here with my best bud, Corey Knudsen.
Ew.
And we're going to talk about movies, and I feel like I say this every week, at least for the past month, but especially for this week. We got a lot to talk about, so we're just going to get to it. A lot of new releases. Corey, how have you been, and what are we drinking today?
We're going back to an old favorite, Mass Hysteria from Prize Brewing. Great can, great taste. Great IPA. Yeah, sounds like a commercial.
Yeah, great can, great taste. It's one of my favorite IPAs. So a lot of this year, I feel like it's just going to be less of us trying new things because sometimes we get really burned on the new things we try. Mostly they're good beers. But a lot of this is just going to be like, all right, let's heavy hitters. What worked for us last year? Like Captain's Patch, we brought back. Mass Hysteria is my favorite IPA I think I've ever had. Or one of the top
I think
5.
We've also just kind of depleted our local liquor stores of all the things that we've tried. We've kind of had a lot of the main things.
It's also just really fun going to a Total Wine or an Ambibulous, a local place, and it's just like a kid in a candy store. But then it's like, do I want to try something that sounds good? Do I want to buy it off the can alone? Or do I want a lager? Do I want an IPA? And for me, I'm a kitchen sink. Give me whatever. I don't give a shit. I'll try it at least. IPAs I used to not like, but now Mass Hysteria has kind of smoothed that over, and now I'm a big IPA fan. Yeah. So I'm annoying like the rest of my family.
Maybe we can mix in some cocktails over the next year. Maybe do some other drinks.
I heard the first part and got scared of what you were going to say for a joke.
Oh.
Mixing a little cock, I was like, what is the
Take that however you will.
Yeah. If we had old fashions on here,
yeah, do something like that.
Also, the episodes would be much shorter because we'd be incoherent. We'd have to cut off,
or a lot longer because it'd be rambling.
We'd just ramble, yeah.
Or a White Russian on here too.
White Russian would make me. I love White Russians, but I'd throw up because multiple White Russians. I remember I just said we should get into it, but now I'm gonna tell you a story. I remember growing up, my family would go to the Dominican every once in a while for family vacations around the holidays. And I think we went when I was 17 or 18, and the drinking age is different there, so I was able to drink on resort, and we had it was all inclusive, so you just go up to a bar, you bark your order, and they give it to you. It's too easy for someone who is new to drinking, and I remember going to the beach every morning and getting a White Russian, something thick and boozy, and then just walking the beach like a Russian man. It was awesome, but also some of the worst gut rot and gut pain I've ever had in my life, so White Russians would be rough for this because I also just have to delete drinks as fast as possible, and more than one White Russian sounds like a bad time.
Yeah, the really Big Lebowski drink there. But anyways, it is Thanksgiving week, so happy Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Blackout Wednesday also. I plan on doing that, possibly.
I pretend that I don't want to, and then it comes to the day and I see who's all going. I'm like, fuck, okay, I'll come.
Yeah, it's all the high school buddies, so... again, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I'm looking forward. We're actually going to have a little joint Thanksgiving celebration. We've done that for the past couple years with our families, so I'm excited for that. Just want to shout out my favorite Thanksgiving food as stuffing. Every year, that's the thing I look forward to the most because I never have it any other time of the year.
For that reason, I get it. It's not my favorite. It's one of the ones where, after the Thanksgiving dinner, if I'm full and I didn't get stuffing, I'm not going to be upset, but it's true that it's only that time of the year that you ever eat that. It's Allie's favorite Thanksgiving food. Mine is just if you refer to it as yams or sweet potatoes, whatever you want, but with the marshmallow burnt on top. My mom makes that every year, and I house that shit. That is my main event for Thanksgiving is to take down a fat bowl of it. So
hell yeah,
sweet potatoes, turkey. I love turkey. I think I feel like turkey kind of slept on. It's really dry, but I like dry food, so that's fine. Let my teeth do the work. It's fine. It'll be fine. So I'm excited. I love Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite holidays. This is Halloween to Thanksgiving, before Christmas. I like Christmas, but those first two holidays are my favorite chunk of the year.
Yeah. I may try and find Baja Blast pie from Taco Bell and bring that over for you.
Yeah, you jokingly said that, and I'm like, I feel like that wouldn't be the most out there thing to actually get made.
I've tried to search for it, and it's really tough to find.
You probably have to make a reduction. You'd have to buy the Baja, make a reduction on the stove, make a little pumpkin pie, but Baja
they don't sell it on you can't get it online, so you actually have to go to the store to see which one sells it. And
wait, is it an actual thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were joking.
No.
That's terrible.
They made it. I think it's like 2,500 calories a slice. And it's it may just be in
disgusting.
I know in New York and LA and maybe Texas, I think they have a Baja Blast like shake or like a pie shake or something. And then they said the pie is like only in stores, so you can't see online which stores have it. So you actually have to go to the ones, and I haven't been able to find it. So I wasn't just joking; like they actually have it. Yeah.
I thought you were joking. That's terrifying. I will say the pumpkin pie blizzard. I've been going to Dairy Queen a lot for someone who's lactose intolerant, but the pumpkin pie blizzard at Dairy Queen is amazing.
Great. Yeah.
If you like pumpkin pie, I love pumpkin pie. So Thanksgiving, it's just the best food. You get to watch football, you get to day drink, you get to you eat a fat meal at like 3 p.m. and then you sleep the rest of the day. So it's the perfect holiday.
It's incredible. And getting into this week now, kind of what for the past couple of years feels like a Thanksgiving theme type movie. The Wizard of Oz, Wicked things. I don't know why.
Good like familial type movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of feels like fall to me a little bit. We are going to be talking about Wicked for Good, which came out this week, the sequel to Wicked from last year. But before we get into that, I want to quickly mention a movie I watched this week, Return to Oz. Last year, I rewatched The Wizard of Oz and then Oz the Great and Powerful, which we have over here. I hadn't seen that one before. It's not that good, but it's interesting. Sam Raimi. He's come up a lot lately.
Yeah, love Sam Raimi.
The original Wizard of Oz is great, but I'd never seen Return to Oz, and I'd always heard so much about it. Came out in 1985, and this is a Disney movie. They got the rights to the Oz franchise for a while, and they decided to make this movie, and it stars Fairuza Balk in the lead role as Dorothy. Dorothy's a lot younger in this movie than she was in the original for some reason.
It's a sequel, kind of?
It's a sequel, and this movie is kind of an amalgamation of a couple of the sequel books that L. Frank Baum wrote. So it kind of ties in some of... There's like this new princess in Oz and all these other people. The Gnome King is kind of the main villain of this movie. He's a rock guy or something. It's a very, as the fucking cops or ambulance goes by, this movie's really interesting because it takes on a much darker tone more consistently than The Wizard of Oz. Not that Wizard of Oz is like doesn't have dark moments. It does for sure. Like the flying monkeys, always like as a kid that like very scared me. So like I always think of that. But this movie overall is a lot darker because Dorothy. Initially in the movie, her parents or her aunt and uncle send her away to this like electrotherapy thing because she's like, no, I went to fucking Oz, and they're like, no, you didn't, and so they send her to this like mental hospital.
Oh, scary.
And then she gets transported to Oz, and she goes there, and it's basically been like depleted, and everybody's been turned to stone in the Emerald City, and it's very dark and very bleak in that sense. And then she goes along her way, and she meets. The original like cast of the Tin Man and Scarecrow, they're like very much in the background, and it's this new cast of like this little soldier metal guy named TikTok.
I've seen him, yeah.
And this pumpkin head guy. He has a pumpkin for a head, if you can believe it. But I guess it inspired Tim Burton for Nightmare Before Christmas, so it's kind of interesting. And then there's a... What the fuck is his name? Oh, it's a big, like, moose or a goat or something named Gump. And he's voiced by Stephen Norrington, who, if you don't know that name, he directed Blade. So that's just that's your new lion, Tin Man and Scarecrow. But they go on their little journey. They encounter the Gnome King. They're trying to save the village, or save Oz and everything.
Moose-like creature. With a green body, black antlers, and a pink snout.
Yeah, it's, you know, what the good thing I'll say about this movie is that the visual effects are really good, and it also got nominated for an Oscar in 1986, which was kind of interesting.
Is it for visual effects?
For visual effects, yeah. And there's a lot of really cool character design and, like, claymation that they do in this movie, especially with, like, the rock formation where, like, the face is moving along this rock at different moments. And they do some really cool stuff at the end with the Gnome King and the design of that. So I liked a lot of that. The costumes and sets are pretty fun. You know, it's an interesting take, and I think if I would have watched this as a kid, I would have been freaked out. There's also these characters called the Wheelers, and they're kind of the like flying monkeys of this movie, and they have wheels for hands and legs, and they just like roll around, and they have really weird costumes, but kind of freaky in a way too. But it's the story's not as interesting as the original Wizard of Oz. It kind of does feel like it's taken from a couple different books and combining things together. And it can be a little boring and slow because there's not really an engaging story to it. But it is fun to be back in the world of Oz in this darker setting, kind of darker tone. The ending to this movie, however, is insane. The Gnome King turns into this big rock guy, and he's trying to kill Dorothy or whatever. And then an egg gets dropped into his mouth.
And chicken egg, like a normal egg?
Just a normal, okay. Yeah, like chicken egg. That's a big thing in this movie, too, is the chicken's along for the ride. Belina or something is the chicken's name. And everyone's freaking out about the chicken the whole movie. They're like, a chicken is in Oz. This is crazy. And then at the end of the movie, the chicken drops an egg into the Gnome King's mouth. And I guess he's allergic to eggs, so he dies. And that's how this movie wraps up. And then Dorothy goes back to Oz or whatever, or to the real world. Just a wild movie. Very interesting to watch, though. It's not bad. I think there are a lot of cool things. I mentioned the visual effects and kind of the costumes and some of that tone in there. But it's not one I could watch again, but I'm glad that I've seen it to kind of round out my live-action Wizard of Oz watch-through.
Yeah.
It's on Disney Plus, so, check it out.
Do you like it more than Oz the Great and Powerful? I remember you not being, the most high on that movie.
I think it's more interesting.
Yeah.
Oz the Great and Powerful was kind of bland to me,
yeah,
and just didn't really work all the way through, so, Return to Oz was a very interesting watch, and I would recommend it just to kind of get a different flavor in this world, because a lot of it's very bright and cheery and everything. Also, in preparation for Wicked for Good, I rewatched Wicked, and we've talked about that a lot. Just one of the biggest surprises from last year. Both in both of our top 10s, won production design, costume design at the Oscars last year, nominated for a bunch of other stuff. It's great, and kind of move into Wicked for Good now. I want to eventually talk about how my thoughts have changed on Wicked a little bit after seeing both parts. Just because I remember in my review last year talking about how this is the part 1. I want to see how part 2 comes out and then reevaluate after a rewatch and after seeing part 2. So finally, fucking 15 minutes into the episode now, we're getting to Wicked for Good.
Which also we should say, which I believe we've mentioned before, we don't know the stage show much, so some of the stuff was a surprise to us and kind of how things kind of end up towards the latter half of Wicked for Good. Mm-hmm. Some stuff was spoiled for us, at least for me. I knew kind of who turned into what character became more relevant based if you're thinking about Wizard of Oz and stuff like that. But most of the story structure and what happens in that final half of that Broadway show was new to us. So we're gonna be coming at this as critiquing the story, but also critiquing the movie. So it's gonna be a little bit of a training wheels for us to kind of figure out, is this good or is this bad? We don't love this. This is fine.
Yeah, don't get on our ass if we say something bad about this movie. You're like, well, that's how it was in the play. No, we realize that we're criticizing both if that's how it was in the play too, or the book that the play is based on. We talked about the fucking sequence of book to play to movie to book to it's a whole fucking thing. Anyways, so basically this story picks up a little bit after. I think it's probably a few months after, I would say.
Already one of my biggest complaints. I'm like, when the fuck does this happen?
It's not directly after.
They said it was 10 or 12 moon tides or 12 tide shifts.
Clock ticks is a big thing in this movie.
Clock ticks is a big measurement of time in this movie, but me and Allie looked it up, and from what we could find based on the book, it's roughly a 5-year jump between the first and the second act.
It doesn't feel like that in this.
At times I was like, this feels like 20 years. And then I'm like, oh, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
It was so... The timing of things felt kind of jumbled to me. And I'm like, can we just clearly define when this takes place for me, please? Yeah. Instead of your fictional time setting.
Right. We don't know what a fucking clock tick is. But it picks up with Elphaba being the Wicked Witch of the West, and Glinda kind of becoming this propaganda piece for Oz, for the Emerald City and the Wizard and Madame Orrible and everything. And I think kind of how we do with a lot of things, we'll say our general thoughts and then get into spoilers. I have a lot to say. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
And we don't want to spoil anything. If you haven't seen the play, like we haven't, and didn't, really know all the specifics of everything. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it is a step down from the first one. Mm-hmm. I think that what works the best about this is that core relationship between Elphaba and Glinda, and when the movie's focused on that, it's incredible, and all that stuff is great. For Good is my favorite song from any of Wicked, all of the first and second part. I think that the crescendo at the end of this movie is just amazing, and the vocals obviously are great. And speaking of that, like Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande continue to be good in this movie.
Yeah.
They proved that with Oscar nominations last year, and the rest of the supporting cast is a lot of fun as well. And I think that all of the technical aspects carry over. John M. Chu's direction, he just has a great handle on this world. The production design, costumes, sets, all of that is really great. But I think that this movie gets a little bit clunky and messy trying to incorporate the Wizard of Oz stuff.
Yeah.
And trying to have that core story of Elphaba and Glinda, but then trying to have an animal rights freedom thing also thrown in there. And it just feels like this movie has too much going on, which I've heard is kind of a critique of the musical as well, that the second act isn't as strong as the first. I've just heard a lot of people kind of talk about that the past year, that the first one has more of the big songs that, Popular, Defying Gravity. And this one is a lot more story-based, and they, added a couple songs to kind of lengthen it out. So we'll get into more specifics of all of that, especially the Wizard of Oz kind of tie-ins I want to get into. But overall good. I think it works really well as a 5-hour kind of one story if you watch it with like an intermission with the first movie. So, good. I would recommend it if you like Wicked. I'm sure you're going to fucking see it. It's making bang at the box office. So, some good, some bad. Mason, what are your thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. I think the one critique that I heard about going into it is that the first hour to first 45 minutes to an hour is kind of rocky. And that, honestly, is my biggest takeaway in terms of a complaint on this movie. It does feel a little bit misguided. Like, we just kind of have a lot of, like... It's a lot of refamiliarizing ourselves to these characters, even though we saw them a year ago. But we're experiencing like, oh, Nessa's doing this, Elphaba's here, this is where this is at. And it just feels like we're jumping around too much to where I'm like, okay, but what's the story of this second act? And that's kind of, I get, like, that's an issue you get when you split things into two parts. You're going to have a lot of like, all right, well, we need to restart this movie, but it doesn't have the traditional like setup of a movie if you were coming into it as like a sequel. It's, this is the second half of Wicked. So the first 45 minutes, it felt a little sloppy. I still enjoyed it. I love these characters. I love the music. I think one of the things I wanted to talk about is that there's 2 new songs written specifically for the movie. And one of them was my favorite song in the movie, which was The Girl in the Bubble, sung by Ariana Grande. I forget how they did the nominations last year with Cynthia Erivo and Grande, who got Best Supporting or Best Lead.
Erivo was lead and Grande is supporting, and they're doing the same thing this year.
I would switch it.
I would agree, but...
Ariana Grande is...
This is Glinda's movie.
This is Glinda's movie, and she's fantastic in this movie. Like, I've seen reports and reviews of people being like, Ariana Grande proves that she can be a movie star.
Yeah.
There are so many scenes based around her where this movie is saddled on her shoulders, and she kills it, especially in that song, Girl in the Bubble. The other song that's new for this movie, No Place Like Home, which is a great title, but sung by Elphaba. She's singing it with the animals, and it felt like in that moment when that song started up in the movie, I was like, this feels like an addition. Because it felt unnecessary, it felt added, it didn't feel like we needed it. Still, like, it's a well-written, it's a good song, but it felt like it stood out a little bit. I love where this movie starts. We do get, like, the peel back of the installation of the Yellow Brick Road. And in my head, and my history with Wizard of Oz, which I haven't read the books, but I love that movie. In my head, I'm like, oh, the bricks were just always yellow. But I think a good thing about Wicked and Wizard of Oz, of peeling it back and, like, let's look at the wizard, let's look at the shady stuff behind the scenes. No, we have to paint these bricks yellow, and I was just like, oh, that's less like
makes sense.
Less magical and less fun, and it's more like manufactured in the way that the wizard and Michelle Yeoh's Ms. Marable or whatever works within this world. So I think that vantage point, that viewpoint, the way that these films kind of tackle the behind the scenes of Wizard of Oz really works for me. I do think that one of the things is one of my favorite characters from the first one was Fiyero. He's so good. Jonathan Bailey's fantastic. In this movie, I said this to my wife during the movie. I'm like, Fiyero is literally in this second act to only point a gun at people and fuck Elphaba. Like, that's literally his entire character. And then he becomes, spoiler alert, he becomes Scarecrow. Which, I knew about that beforehand, so I had a lot of time to adjust to that. I do think I agree with you. Where it has to tackle blending with the Wizard of Oz, that's where it kind of gets a little sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when it's Wicked. I love it when it's Glinda and Elphaba, and I think all of that stuff works exceptionally well. No Good Deed in this song, or in this movie, is a absolute rock ballad banger. Like, I was getting hyped. This movie also had me to the point of almost tearing up and crying. But that chemistry between Erivo and Grande is so magnetic. You get a lot of good scenes between them, and it's a good dynamic of, like, we're friends, but we're on different sides of the equation, but we're very like-minded. We both have same ideals, but somehow we're on different sides of the spectrum. And I like every character. I think gets good moments. I think some things are rushed. I think Nessa is an absolute bitch of a character and should die a horrible death. Maybe drop a house on her. Oh, you did. Thank you. Also thought that scene was hilarious of her. Oh, storm's coming, and she's just in a wheelchair down. Bach in the house, and I'm like, oof. Oh, that sucks. I think that there are some character decisions with, like, Bach and his anger, and it works in this movie. But then when you try to relate it to what most people are going to relate it to with their experience to Wizard of Oz, it's like Bach in this movie, when he becomes Tin Man, is, again, spoiler alert, so viciously angry. You watch the mass-released, very popular, very culturally significant Wizard of Oz from the 30s, or 40s maybe. Tin Man and Scarecrow are just here to have a fucking great jolly time. Yeah. First they took my legs off and they threw them over there. And then they took my legs off and they threw them over there. And it's like, that's Fiyero? How? So,
right.
I've seen that kind of conversation come up where it's like, do you have a new rendition of Wizard of Oz? Like, do you have this team make that side of the story, remake the Wizard of Oz? And before seeing the movie, I'm like, no, don't touch it. It's a classic. After seeing the movie, I'm like, they kind of need to, in my mind's eye. I'm like, you need to, if you want it to be a clean link and make it make sense to me, you need to kind of go through and rehash that story and make it a little bit more consistent with what we get in both of these Wicked films. Mm-hmm. Which they acknowledge, like, you don't have the ruby red slippers here, you have the silver slippers. Like, there's small adjustments, and honestly, the Wicked story works the best, I feel like, if you have a basic memory or understanding of what the Wizard of Oz is. If you don't remember it beat by beat, it's probably going to serve you better watching Wicked.
Yeah.
I think the wrap-up of this movie, which kind of has its own kind of negatives that you and I both levy a little bit about Wicked, but also for me a little bit against Wizard of Oz, I think that has some muddled aspects that you and I should talk about. But overall, I didn't think that this movie was disappointing. I had a great time with it. The music still largely worked for me. The casting is proven again to be absolutely perfect, except for maybe Michelle Yeoh. Like,
singing.
Les Mis has Russell Crowe as Javert, and he can't sing. Michelle Yeoh's in this movie, and I'm like, every time she has to sing a string of lines or a string of lyrics, I'm like, yeah, you're the weak part.
She's good in the role, but the singing is...
She's a fantastic actress, but I'm like, the singing doesn't 100% come up to snuff compared to everyone else in the scene with her. So I knew that this was going to be maybe a step down, and it kind of is. But I still had a great time. It's one of my favorite theater-going experiences of this year, and I definitely recommend it to you, especially if you like Wicked. But, Corey, let's get more into, like, some of the more in-depth negatives. Yes. What were some big takeaways that still, I guess, bother you after the screening of the movie?
So, yeah, kind of with the Wizard of Oz stuff, you kind of mentioned that this one is a lot of, Bach is becoming the Tin Man, Fiero's becoming Scarecrow. We see the little lion cub become the cowardly lion from the first movie.
Which, that was a surprise. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, we both knew, like, unfortunately kind of heard just spoilers over the past year. It's hard to avoid that all these people,
become...
Nessa is the Wicked Witch of the East that gets the house on her, whatever. And so we kind of knew that going in, which it would have been fun to not know and just experience that. Be like, oh, that's interesting. I think on a superficial level, it's fun to see Wizard of Oz tie-ins. Yeah. And kind of the novelty of, like... This scene from The Wizard of Oz, like, what happened after that scene with Glinda and the Wicked Witch, or where you weren't even thinking of it when you see the movie, but it's fun to get a little peek behind the curtain there. But my issue is really, like, it feels forced in because we really just get the one, or like the couple scenes with Bach where he has his song where he's like, we need to kill the witch or whatever. But then Fiyero, like you mentioned, doesn't get anything to do, even as Scarecrow in this movie.
No, he just pops up at the end.
Yeah, like we don't even see that transition. The Lion, Coleman Domingo has a couple lines in this movie, which we didn't expect him to be like a big player, but
nor did we didn't need him to be. But it was just like it's so minimal to where it's like, why include it at all?
Right, and like Nessa as well, like her character becomes the governor of Munchkin Land, but then she like all of a sudden is like, I'm the Wicked Witch of the East. I'm like, I don't feel that. I don't
need you to become the villain right now. Like, what's going on?
It felt just very much like, all right, and obviously, like we said before, like this is going back to the play and the book and how they did it there, but we're just talking about the movie. It feels like they were just trying to be like, all right, well, we need to make these characters fit in with the Wizard of Oz and kind of like shoehorn it in there, like bend this to make it fit into this.
Yeah.
When, like we said, I think the Elphaba and Glinda stuff works really well. I do want to shout out some positives. You mentioned the Girl in the Bubble song, which I really like that.
Cinematography.
I think, again, Ariana Grande performs the hell out of that song.
I think this is Glinda's movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And I think that song, it's filmed really well in the room that she's in. There's a lot of mirrors, and it's kind of starts in on a mirror and then pulls out, and then it's a reflection of her on the stairs. And it does that multiple times as she's moving around. And I think that it does a great job of capturing Glinda as a character, because really she does feel trapped in a bubble. She feels trapped in her own image within a mirror, kind of. And you have this popular girl that we saw in the first movie that's like, well, I have everything, and I am so generous to others, and I do all this stuff. But then in this movie, we really see that arc develop. And I think seeing her, and her relationship with Elphaba is really interesting. And it kind of comes to that crescendo with the For Good song, which, like I mentioned, is really great.
Good.
And I saw some people on like social media put the For Good song over clips of La La Land, which, again, I've mentioned this probably 100 times, but it is my favorite movie of all time. But I think that it actually does kind of tailor to both themes of the main characters in that movie, where you have these two people that come into each other's lives, and they are just kind of on a crash course in their own direction, but then when they meet each other, they realize how much that their perspectives change and their morals like kind of rub off on each other, and the kind of idea that they are changed for the better because of meeting this person, even if that person isn't meant to be in their life forever, whether it's a friend or La La Land's case is a relationship. And realizing, maybe not in that moment, you don't realize that it was for the good, but in hindsight and retrospect, you realize that meeting them was for the better, and it made you a better person and made you good. And I think that's captured really well, because we see kind of in that first movie, Glinda is on this kind of just trajectory of being a popular girl. She's going to be successful, but she's kind of just halted in place by Elphaba coming into her life. Whereas Elphaba's kind of stuck in place. She's a very awkward, just like not accepted for her skin and whatever else. Yeah. But then once Glinda comes into her life, she realizes kind of the defying gravity at the end. She's free. She can be who she wants to be and is not tied down by anybody, the wizard, whoever else. And that's the strongest part of this movie, of both movies really, is those arcs for those characters. And it's through those songs that we really feel it. And For Good, it just had me like really feeling those emotions. I was like, damn, this is really getting me right now. All the while, Dorothy's trapped underneath them as they're singing.
I was like, she's like, stay down there. Shuts the door.
She's just listening to this. She's like, what the fuck's going on up there?
Yeah, I'm like, and then you still have the audacity to throw a bucket of water on this woman. Like, what's going on? But those arcs are that is the focal point of these two movies. That is when these movies, like, pun not intended, this is when these movies sing. Like, that's when it works seamlessly. But it is that tie-in to Wizard of Oz, which you then get later on with Dorothy coming out of that that hatch, and you get kind of what I've liked about Wicked for Good in those final moments, and then where it doesn't work is that I like the peel back behind the curtain and seeing Glinda has been here for so much, because in Wizard of Oz she's there marginally, she's not in a lot of that movie. And in this movie, you see Glinda. Oh, she's actually there in that scene. She's within that world talking to Elphaba. And then she hides away, and that shot of them being closed off by the door, and I was just like, oh, that works so well. But then it's always the juxtaposition of then you include the Wizard of Oz stuff, and I'm like, it's taking it away. Like, it's undoing things that I think are really working. You get throughout this movie, you get the mention of the wizard spreading that propaganda of like, she'll melt, throw water on her, she'll melt, and that has always been an issue for me personally with the Wizard of Oz. I was like, why the fuck does she melt from a bucket of water? That's so stupid. Who knew that? Why is that established? In this, they established that, but they don't, like, since it's a propaganda thing, it's not true. And then when Dorothy goes in that climactic scene from Wizard of Oz, and also replayed in this movie of her throwing a bucket of water on Elphaba, and she says, I'm melting, I'm melting, I'm melting, and Elphaba does die by water. But no, she doesn't. She comes back at the very end of the story, and she's alive, and she fakes her death. And you and I have both have conflicting issues with this. I've always hated that a bucket of water takes down the Wicked Witch of the West. And in this movie, I like that they undo that. But by undoing it in this movie, I think you lose a lot of that big emotional punch that you established with having Elphaba die and being like, I am this world's villain, and I need to die, or I need them to think I'm dead. And I think that gut punch of like, no, you stay here, Glinda. I know what I need to do, and I know what this is going to mean to the world, and I know the importance that you're going to have in the aftermath of this. I need to go. And that fucked me up. Like, that hit me so hard in the movie. And then it kind of just revives itself with a whimper of, nope, Fiero's here. He's magically Scarecrow. He kind of looks like Ryan Reynolds with a mask on. And I'm like, oh, you're here. Oh, Elphaba's alive. Okay, cool. They get to live on in their own little happy ever after in a distant land. And I'm like, and I get that that's similar to what it is in the stage show. But I'm like, I think you overwrote this role. I think you had an ending that worked so well. But I'm like, maybe the writer is too in love with its own character where Elphaba needs to live. Like, there are moments when Wicked for Good feels like fanfic of Wizard of Oz. When I'm like, no, this is an established, well-written thing. We're spending time with these characters, and this makes sense. In that moment when Elphaba comes back up, I'm like, I'm happy she's alive, but it proves that, no, water doesn't kill her, which, thank God, I hate that aspect of Wizard of Oz. But you lose all that emotional punch where this just feels like fan fiction at this point. And I'm like, I wish they would have changed the ending from the original show then, which, again, I'm not familiar with, but from what I've seen after watching Wicked for Good, it's like, I wish that the Elphaba would die. So
I think in the book Wicked that the play is based on, I believe Elphaba does die.
I think that's stronger.
And in the play, I believe she stays alive. And I didn't know the ending to this, which was kind of nice to have that surprise in this movie to not know. But I do think it like you mentioned, like, it takes away, like, with Elphaba being alive, it takes away the impact that her death has. And especially when I rewatched Wicked, the first one this week, the opening scene of that movie where Glinda is no one mourns the wicked and they're burning the witch statue and everything.
Yeah, which you get that roughly played again in this movie.
Yep.
Within timeline. Like, it makes sense now.
And, like, that scene kind of takes on a whole new meaning now where she's saying, like, the Wicked Witch of the West is dead, and now you understand, having seen both parts, that Elphaba's like, don't make me like a hero, like, make this a symbol to do better, to do good, and make me kind of a martyr of sorts. And then in the first movie, some fuck-ass dude in the crowd's like, fuck that bitch, Elphaba, and Glinda's like, oh!
no, hey!
She's like, no one mourns the Wicked. And she's like, oh, some people are. Like, fuck. Holy fucking munchkin.
She's like, I'm torn up about this, bitch.
But I just,
show me your permits, Munchkin.
Yeah, you're staying in Munchkin Land. You can't leave. But just with how the ending plays out here, I think a lot of that is sort of undone. Yeah. Even though, like, the public doesn't know she's alive, we know she's alive. And I was talking to you about it. I think a better way to end this movie, which I know would be like a risky thing to divert from the stage play, but to not see Elphaba come back, not have Fiyero, get her out of the trapdoor. I think have Glinda go back and kind of be this force for good. The wizard leaves. She's like, all right, we're going to free the animals. We're going to do everything good. Oz is going to be great. And then have her have the Grimoire at the end and have it open up and kind of do some spells. And it can leave it open to maybe like, oh, is Elphaba back and doing this? Or is it Glinda using the good and the betterness that she learned from Elphaba to tap into her magical powers, maybe?
Yeah, leave it a little bit more ambiguous. Let us kind of have a sense that, oh, maybe she's still out there. Maybe she does know this thing. Like, another aspect is the whole wizard finding out that he is the illegitimate father of Elphaba. Like, I think it's never shown or stated that Elphaba knows this. Like, you can maybe like think or imply, but I think if you were to tie this story up of maybe Elphaba's dead but maybe she's not, and you leave it more ambiguous like that, and you get Glinda with the book, I think that there's a way to kind of naturally segue that also into the wizard getting that vial and having that come to Jesus moment where he's like, oh, I'm Elphaba's dad. And I think that there's a way that you could, even just through the sound design of just something from Elphaba, her singing or her little motifs, I think that you could imply she's alive, and yes, she also knows that the wizard's her dad. Like, I think that there are ways to kind of smooth out that ending. It felt kind of, I'm like, John M. Chu, you made Wicked, and it's fantastic. He also made G.I. Joe Retaliation and Showing. And
Now You See Me Too?
And you made Now You See Me Too. And it's starting to rear its ugly ass head a little bit. But, like, I still think this is a well-made movie, but I'm like, I think that there's some subtlety and some, like, kind of nuance that was missed, at least in the ending of this. And I feel like to give concrete endings or concrete explanations to a lot of things that are so pop culturally relevant, tie back to one of the most influential films of all of Hollywood, I'm like, I think it's a better move to try and leave it up to ambiguity and leave it up to the viewer. Like, it breeds more conversation and more you can speculate on it more. I think it's just way more interesting than telling me and showing me blatantly Elphaba climbs out of this hatch with Fiyero. They're okay. They're in this other world. Like, it's too tied up in a bow for what I needed this to be. I think if you leave it, like, also goes into the potential conversation that they're having of, is there going to be more movies? They could make another Wicked movie. Yeah. And it's like, I think everything's so wrapped up nicely in a bow that I don't want another movie. If you leave it a little bit more ambiguous, maybe I'd be more intrigued in a Wicked 3, whatever that would be, because that would be likely something 100% original, which would be exciting, but I'm like, I feel like you slightly missed the landing. You landed, but you lost a wing, and the door came down too early. You lost a tire. Like, I'm like, you're almost there. It felt a little too brazen and blunt with some aspects where I'm like, I think if you were just a little bit more restricted in your storytelling, this could have been a very impactful and strong, heavily speculated ending as opposed to spelling everything out for us.
Yeah, to speak on the kind of Jeff Goldblum as the wizard parent reveal, we talked about it before. Like, we knew it from the first movie. We hadn't seen the play, but, like, you get it from the first. It's not, like, explicitly stated, but you understand. It's like, okay, he's in, like, the flashback scene. He's got the green vial. She has the green vial. Like, yeah, he's the parent. Yeah. But it's another issue I have with the movie where it's just kind of this reveal at the end, and they kind of over-explain it. And then they also have some, what I think is kind of bad de-aging of Jeff Goldblum in a scene.
I was so thrown by that, too. I'm like, is Jeff Goldblum black in this scene?
It was like,
I was so thrown. I was like, what is happening right now?
It looked like Jurassic Park era Goldblum, and I'm not a fan of de-aging in any sense. I just don't think any of it looks good. So it just kind of took me out of it. But it's just this really, like, again, a quick thing that happens, and then they kind of move on, and the wizard leaves. And it's just an area of this movie where a lot of big things are happening, but we don't get time to sit with them, really. Yeah. Another one is when Nessa Rose dies, and Elphaba goes there to, like, sees her sister die, and it's like, this should be a huge moment. Like, her sister is dead, but then we kind of have this jokey, like, sword fight scene with Glinda and Elphaba, and, like, there is some fun humor in there, but it just felt weird.
Okay, so I agree with one aspect of that, and I also disagree. I love that fight scene between them, but I also think that shift in Elphaba of just absolute feral rage of, where are my sister's fucking shoes? That, they did not sell that for me in this movie. I was like, why is she so pissed about that? Why does she need this? Nessa has been nothing but an absolute bitch in this movie, which, I get it's your sister, but, I don't... That shift, and where I'm like, are you trying to make Elphaba more outright vengeful evil, as opposed to, a misunderstood martyr, mismarketed propaganda martyr of Oz? It shifts her into something almost too cartoonish. And also, I'm like, there's not enough here for me to believe that. I'm like, why are her shoes that fucking important to you right now? Why is that the thing? I love the fight between... And another just... all the praise to Ariana Grande in that scene, because she had me dying. Laughing so hard in that exchange. It's one of my favorite parts
doing
of the movie.
Witch cackle.
She's just fucking, twirling her little shitty baton wand thing, and I was like, this is awesome. And it works. But... that switch, that character shift within Elphaba, I was like, I don't know if you set that up enough for me to actually believe in. And if it's something you're trying to tie in from that first act, you still need to reestablish it in the second act. I need that more. So it was just, it tried to make her too cartoony villain. And I was like, what are we doing here?
I also think the Fiyero shift from being with Glinda, who he's always, even going back to the first movie, of, he knew he could get this girl because he's the popular guy, and he's like, yeah, I can't have her, but I want to be with Elphaba because she actually sees through the facade of this, popular guy. I still feel like it's kind of quick in this movie where he's like, all right, I'm not getting married to her on what was supposed to be my wedding night. I'm going back to fuck Elphaba in this treehouse as we're singing this song, and she's wearing a fucking shaggy cardigan, and we're doing that, and she's picking me up and floating around. I'm like, all right. It just, a lot of things felt quick, which I think... that kind of core trio should have been the focus more so, giving them more time to kind of sit with Elphaba's sister dying, Fiyero deciding he wants to be with Elphaba, instead of showing me how the Tin Man got made, how, the Cowardly Lion got here. I don't need that. I want these core characters to be developed more so.
Yeah, and the Tin Man... Bach as the Tin Man is a massive shift, in the story. That moment, it just... There's not a lot of explanation to it, which I don't need a lot of explanation to it, but I'm like, how did this boyish, awkward boy who's in love with Glinda, but with Ness for convenience sake, basically...
He's getting on base.
How and why... Because they established his heart is shrinking, they accidentally cast the wrong spell, and so Elphaba just tries to fumble fucking and solve it. And turns him into a Tin Man, and I was just like, okay, but why? It's not enough of an answer for me to be like, oh yeah, they just made him a Tin Man. Sure, but it feels a little clumsy and rushed. And then you get Bach as Mussolini Tin Man.
Yeah.
Especially towards the latter half of the movie where he's pissed. I have a personal vendetta with the witch. I'm gonna kill her. And this lion, which... Also, the lion's whole argument as to why he's a part of this core trio is that Elphaba broke him out of a cage when, the lion didn't do it himself, and that has now made him a coward.
He's mad or something?
I was like, that's muddled as fuck. What is
also,
that?
Bach is... Well, also, Nessa starts to read the fucking Grimoire and is gonna, do something to Bach, and then Elphaba's trying to fix it so he doesn't die, but then he's mad at Elphaba. Which, maybe he doesn't know, but it's it's kind of fucking Nessa that did it.
Who really did this to you? Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a lot of things that I don't think have enough time. And it's a weird thing for me. I kind of want to go back to the overall looking at Wicked and Wicked for Good. Mm-hmm. I remember in my review last year, I talked about Wicked. My main complaints, one of them actually was Jeff Goldblum. I was like, I don't know, he kind of stands out as Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. I think he actually works a lot better, having seen both parts now, so I'll kind of go back on that. The other main thing was the pacing of that first movie. I still stand by that with that first movie and this movie. I think the pacing is off because the stage play, I believe, is about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And there's 5 hours of movie. That's a lot. When the first movie is longer than
the actual show,
I think that's an issue. And just kind of looking at the whole as a story now, I kind of mentioned we haven't talked much about the animal like animals being trapped and not being able to speak. I think it's fine, but it also just doesn't, again, get enough development really to feel impactful.
It's interesting to add that subplot and then absolutely fumble it and not dedicate actually enough time to where I could sit here and tell you what's going on with that subplot.
Yeah.
Animals can't talk, and that's bad. And that's all I can say about a whole added subplot to a story that somehow is supposed to justify this show being overall 5 hours long.
Yeah, and it's just, I think, an issue with both movies where you could trim stuff out and make both of these movies 2:15. I'm obviously cool with building out a movie and having it obviously be longer than the stage show. That's not my issue really, but I just think that looking back on that first one and now this movie, there are things that you could trim, and I think it would have been great for John M. Chu and the creative team to be bold and go different from the stage play. I get why they didn't do it because it's very beloved. But I think it would have been a better move for both of these movies to maybe trim it down, cut out some of those subplots, focus more on that main kind of trio, and have all the emotion just funnel through there. Because, like I said, I mean, the core relationship between Elphaba and Glinda works really well, and I love their arcs in both of these movies. It really just kind of hits me, and a lot of those songs just looking from, Popular to Defying Gravity to For Good. Just kind of the progression of those is really fun.
Yeah.
And, even just from the Oz Dust Bowl scene in the first movie, which is my favorite scene from that original one, to the For Good scene at the end, I think is just beautiful. And it's a really great arc. So I think this movie, when it hits the highs, it really hits them. I think it really succeeds in that, which is the important part. But I think it does get a little clunky, a little messy in terms of incorporating Wizard of Oz stuff. Not really giving enough time for these big character moments that happen, and feeling a little bit rushed, even though both of these movies are the first one's too
padded for time.
I was rewatching the first movie. I started it before work in the morning. I start work at 3 p.m. and I started it in the morning, and it's 2:40, and I was like, holy fuck, I forgot how long this is. And this one's 2:15 or something, but it's a very weird one because I really like so much of what happens. It's just all these little things that kind of add up, and over the past couple days thinking about it, I'm like, man, that could have just been cleaned up here and there, and it could have been really good. But it is, again, like I said, a fun 5-hour watch of being back in this world of Oz. Great performances, great production design. This is going to be, in the Oscar conversation again this year for sure, but just struggles a bit with that pacing in both movies, and struggles with trying to kind of incorporate a lot of the Wizard of Oz and outside world stuff into it.
Yeah, we've talked about Wicked a lot. The first one I love. I agree it could probably be tightened up a little bit because it is a almost overlong movie at points. But I love that experience, and it's my favorite Wizard of Oz movie. The first Wicked, all of them.
Wow.
Wicked is number one for me. And I'm going to ask you here in a minute, because you've seen Oz the Great and Powerful and Return to Oz, which I'm really jealous of Return to Oz. I've been so interested, but I didn't have time this week. I want to watch that, so I'm going to ask you your ranking here in a second, so maybe prepare that. But final thoughts on Wicked for Good. Yes, we did unpack a lot of negatives about the movie. It's not as good as the first one, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. But it gave me great moments and great time spent with characters that really sold me in that first film. How are you really going to convince me that the Wicked Witch of the West was a good person, and then that their evil turn makes sense? Did they fumble that a little bit? Yeah, maybe, but I also get why the world makes it seem like she is the absolute worst person in the world. There's a lot of propaganda around it because of the Wizard and Marvel. I really was excited for this movie. I heard pretty good things, and it was something that I had a great time at the theater with. It is a great movie-going experience. I got to see this in a very packed theater at 10 p.m. on a Friday. To be that late in the evening and still have a theater filled with people that are reacting, cheering, having a great time, crying in moments. It was such a good film-going experience. Yes, I have negatives. Yes, it's not as good as the first, but I still really enjoyed it. And it also gave me another great experience with my wife at the theaters, which it's really hard to convince her to go to see a movie in the theater with me, so I'm always really appreciative of that. I loved the majority of this movie. There are things that I think could be tightened up, cleaned up, but overall, I am relatively well satisfied by the ending and conclusion of this 2-part saga. But if anything, it makes me want to watch Wicked again. I think it's a great theater-going experience, so definitely go see it. I hope it makes all the money, especially since we had like a very anemic October at the box office.
It's doing good right now.
It's doing great. I hope it just continues on because we need it for theater fans. Go see it. Go support it in theaters. It is still a good musical. And like the music really fucking tears in this. Like I listened to No Good Deed this morning, the movie specific version, because like that is a rock ballad, and I love it.
Do you prefer the music from the first movie or the second movie?
You get the more iconic stuff in the first, and I think because of that, I would probably segue more to the first. But I was so surprised by The Girl in the Bubble. Mm-hmm. That blew me away. And that was maybe my favorite song in the movie itself. And also No Good Deed was just such a, like I said, a ballad. And then For Good is such a good through line with this little 2-part saga. So I would say Defying Gravity is such a hard thing to beat. And when it comes in the story towards the tail end of that first act, it's so impactful that it's you're going up against a champion. Like, it's hard to beat that. So I would say maybe I'd give the edge to the first one. I still really, though, enjoyed the music of the second act in Wicked For Good. So definitely go see this. What would you say? You mentioned the For Good being a big musical component that really worked for you. What other songs in this film really worked for you? And then also bleed that into how would you rank, since you've seen all of these Wizard of Oz and Wicked universe movies, if you want to entitle it that, what would you rank those at?
I think, speaking to the music, the first movie I think is so consistent where, like, I really like No One Mourns the Wicked. Mm-hmm. The opening song of that movie I think is great. I like What Is This Feeling and Popular. Those are fun songs in school. Defying Gravity. I really like The Wizard and I. That's a really good song, too.
That's a really sweet song.
But in, Wicked For Good, I think it's not quite as consistent in the songs, where I think there's a couple that I really like. I enjoy Wonderful. I know
Wonderful's fantastic.
People shit on that song, and even I heard from the play where it's like, that's the bathroom break song. We don't care for this one. In this movie, they added Glinda into that song. She's not in that one in the musical, which I think helps and actually makes sense for the story. But, No Good Deed, you mentioned that one. The Girl in the Bubble is really good. But For Good is my favorite song from Wicked, but I do think the music from the first movie, from that first act of the play, is stronger overall. As far as my ranking goes for the movies, I know there's like some animated movies that were released. I've only seen these, 5 live-action ones, so The Wizard of Oz is number 1. I mean, when I rewatched it last year, I hadn't seen it in a long time, but just the technicality of that movie is insane. Like, how they actually achieved going from black and white to color doesn't have the same impact for us, but just hearing old people talk about the first time they saw The Wizard of Oz in the theater, and they're like, I didn't know what I was seeing. Like, that was insane to see a color picture. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Like, that's so unbelievable. And I think that movie holds up incredibly well and is so enjoyable to watch. It does kind of have those darker, scarier moments in it too.
It's absolutely timeless.
Yeah,
that will never get old.
There's a reason that we have Wicked and Wicked For Good and Oz the Great and Powerful.
In 2025.
Right. There's a reason that it's one of the most important movies of all time, and it's not just like a classic for the sake of being a classic. It's really good. It's fun too. So that's number 1, and then Wicked, and then Wicked For Good. And then I'd put Return to Oz. I think it's just such an interesting watch. Not that it's good, but it's just a cool little time capsule. And then Oz the Great and Powerful would be last. And I don't even hate that movie. I don't hate all the ideas it has, but it's just, it doesn't succeed in really being this other prequel to The Wizard of Oz. So, that's how I'd rank the 5 that I've seen, not including the animated stuff.
Yeah, and I've only seen 3. I've never seen Oz the Great and Powerful and Return to Oz, and those are movies that I might try to in the coming weeks just because this is the best time to watch them. I should have watched them in preparation, but it got busy this week. But Wicked is my favorite attempt at Oz. I think it is, like I said this in, I think last year when we reviewed Wicked, and it's very cheesy to say, but like Wicked is why you go to the movies. It's why movies are made. It's such a great experience in theaters, and it's a good communal experience. I love that movie. Almost no notes, but like you could shorten that a little bit. And then it honestly goes into Wicked for Good and Wizard of Oz being a toss-up. Wicked for Good, I am so more invested in the story of it and the characters of it. But Wizard of Oz is, like we said, a timeless classic. It always works. It never is faulting. There's no issue with it. It's just does this somewhat basic-ish story with all these amazing effects and great characters. Does that overshine a story where I'm deeply invested into more complex characters? So it's kind of a toss-up, but so to cheat, I'd say Wicked is my favorite, and then Wicked for Good and Wizard of Oz are kind of tied. I will acknowledge that Wizard of Oz is a better, consistently made movie, but the story of Wicked for Good has me way more invested than anything Dorothy does in Wizard of Oz. So it's, and I hope to elaborate on that and elongate that ranking as I venture into Return to Oz and Oz the Great and Powerful, because Sam Raimi and Return to Oz just looks... Thank you, Caravan of Garbage, for exposing that movie to me, because that looks so fucking wild from what I've seen. So I'm interested, and it looks like if Tim Burton made a stab at a Wizard of Oz movie. So I'm excited to check those out eventually.
Also, one final kind of note on Wicked, Wizard of Oz, all the stuff. At the end of Wicked for Good, when the Grimmery opens at the end, do you think that it's Elphaba opening it, or do you think that it is Glinda tapping into her magical powers from her experience with Elphaba?
I don't know. I think my gut punch was that it was Elphaba opening it for Glinda.
I agree. Yep.
That's how I viewed it. I don't, because we haven't really gotten, like, the whole thing with Glinda is that she doesn't have the power or any power that equates to what Elphaba has. And it was like a guided assist, like, here you go. Do what you can with this.
Yeah.
So that's how I read it. I didn't think it was Glinda magically, after not being able to do it this entire time, being able to open the book and understand spells and do all that stuff. So I think it was a guided assist. That's how I view it. I'm kind of
cool either way.
I'm cool, yeah.
If it was Glinda being like, wow, through this I kind of gained a little bit of that. I'm on my way to do that. But I kind of agree that it was Elphaba being like, hey, I'm here. I'm with you.
I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, again, it speaks to just how much I love that duo. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
So to finally transition, I don't know how long we are in this episode.
We're about an hour in. We're like 56 minutes in right now.
Okay, to get off of Wicked for Good, because there's a lot of fucking shit we both watched this week. We might have to move a little bit slower or a little bit faster, but with Wicked for Good being kind of the big movie this past week, some other movies were going into wider release, which is Rental Family for me was a big film that I wanted to go check out because it has Brendan Fraser in his return to the screen post The Whale and post that Oscar win. Sorry, Batgirl, it didn't happen. Rental Family, directed by Hikari, who directed 37 Seconds. I looked up what that was. It looks like a feature that I have no inclination or idea as to what the hell that's about, but an accomplished director, also did Beef and some episodes of Tokyo Vice, which is a show I've always been really intrigued by. And it's about an American actor in Tokyo, a struggling actor who can't get consistent work, and then he finds this kind of company that specializes in hiring out actors and people to assist people in their emotional relationships and pockets where they don't have like a father figure, or they don't have kind of that cohesive ending to a relationship with a significant other, or their father's passing and they want someone to interview their father because it's going to give them a whole different sense of worth before their time expires. So Rental Family, the trailers really sell it, I think, really well as a emotional experience of just Brendan Fraser trying to do his best to help people out. And they say it a number of times within the movie that he's just the token white guy in Japan. Like, we just need a token fat white American. Like, please. And Brendan Fraser plays that role, and it works so well. You didn't see this movie this week, so I don't want to go too far into it, but what I had for anticipation of, like, getting Brendan Fraser back on screen, giving me something that is not only well made, but it is a feel-good movie, which is really hard to come by consistently, because especially Oscar season and award season, we're getting a lot of hard-hitting, heavy-feeling dramas. and I want a little brief break of levity. Not that that's any worse artistically. It's just give me something that can kind of reassure me that everything is okay, and a little bit of a happy moment in theaters before I go see another really sad drama for the Oscars. So Rental Family, it is a great time. It is a feel-good movie, which I think feel-good movie gets thrown around sometimes, and it can almost be used as a negative of like, yeah, the movie's fine quality-wise, but it's a feel-good movie, so you'll get a good experience. This movie is really well made, and it's a feel-good movie. On top of it, it's exceptionally well acted. There's good cinematography, and there's really good character work done here. So it is a quieter movie. I hope it kind of sticks around for awards contention and that it's still in the conversation. I don't know the likelihood of that. Brendan Fraser, I think that there is no actor in the world that has as warm as a presence as him. Like, if I ever saw that man on the street, sorry, Brendan Fraser, I'm running up and I'm going to try and give you a hug. I'm going to get arrested, but I'm going to try and give you a hug. Because in this movie, he's playing somewhat of a quasi-father role to a little girl. He's playing a reporter to a aging film star. It is just a story about being there for other people. And it's very impactful and effective. And it's like a movie I'd take my mom to go see. But there are subtitles, and my mom don't fuck with that because she's a white woman from Minnesota. So I'm like, I'm going to have to really try and egg her on to try and see this. But this is a movie that she would like. And this is a movie that I think a lot of people, especially around this time of the year where it's Thanksgiving, we are getting that big, fantastical, wicked for good. But I think that this is an exceptional Thanksgiving family film where you get to just experience some of the good aspects of life of just people being nice to one another and filling a role that is vacated by someone else. So I really enjoyed this movie. It was something that I was really excited to go see, and I was lucky enough to see on this very busy week. So I would definitely recommend checking it out in theaters if it's near you, or if it comes to streaming sometime soon. Definitely check it out then too.
This is one I'm really excited to see, whether it is in theaters or at home. I love Brendan Fraser, and all the things you mentioned are kind of what I expected from it. But you mentioned some of the heavy Oscar movies that are coming out now, and one that you talked about last week was It Was Just an Accident. I got the chance to see it this week, and I loved it. I thought this movie was great. This is, again, not like a huge big movie really in terms of like the Oscar-y kind of like screaming performances and crying performances really, but it's such a well-written movie. The first thing I do want to mention actually before I get into that is the credits for this movie, where
it's like Late Night with the Devil. It's like Late Night with the Devil.
It's like the Family Guy thing where it's like, all right, movie started. Oh, it's another credit. Okay, all right,
it's another production studio.
I kid you not, there is probably 10 to 12 different production companies involved in this, which I understand with a smaller movie. Yeah. I get it. If we ever were to make a movie, there'd be a lot of fucking people involved. There'd be a lot of people
sending money.
But it was just funny because it was just like, this company. I'm like, all right,
you know what's bad when the other people in the theater are laughing. Too.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, oh God, they know too.
It was just the Family Guy, the Late Night with the Devil we talked about. It's just a funny thing. But this movie is really well written. Jafar Panahi he directed this movie, and it's kind of fun to discover this movie along the way because I didn't really know like specifically what this movie is about. Mm-hmm. But essentially, I mean, the synopsis they kind of give is a small mishap triggers a chain reaction of ever-growing problems. And it
very basic synopsis, but it works.
Very basic, and it really is just kind of this group of people that maybe slight spoilers, I guess, if you don't want to know anything, but they kidnap this guy and they're deciding what they want to do with him. And this guy had tormented them in their past over kind of political things going on. I believe it's in Iran that the movie takes place. Even though this movie is submitted by France for Best International Feature, which is odd.
It's like Amelia Perez.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it's because just production companies and how that works out. Whatever. But it's a really great movie of just unfolding as the story goes along, because it starts out and you have this kind of interesting sound design that is very prevalent in the opening of the movie with a man's leg, a prosthetic leg that is squeaking. And you don't really... Yeah, at first I was watching the movie, I'm like, interesting to like make that very prominent in the sound design, where you're hearing that. And then the movie goes along and you meet these characters and they get back together after years of not seeing each other, and they talk about why this guy was very impactful in their lives in a very negative way. And seeing their different ideologies of what they should do with this guy that they have kidnapped. One is very hot-headed and wants to just kill him. Other people are like, we need to figure out if this is actually the guy that we think it is. And it's really just a fun discovery as it is unfolding along. And I think that the screenplay is great. There's no downtime in this movie. It's just very constant. It's very rapid. Great pace. And I think that there is some really good humor mixed in there as well, where some security or cops kind of show up at a certain point in the movie where they're like, what's going on here? What is this?
Like, nothing. Shut the back of the van.
It's just really well crafted, and I think that the ending to this movie, you talked about it last week, is incredible, and it comes back to that sound design of just a squeaking sound.
Yeah.
That is so impactful, and also it just leaves you like, what happens after this?
Yeah.
And that's a great sign of a movie, is that you feel like these characters were living before you got into the movie and feel like they're living after you've left. It doesn't feel like it's just a 2-hour thing. It feels like you just got to jump in at a certain point, but you're like, there's more story here. We don't need to see it, obviously, but it's just, it's there. So this is really good. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes for a reason, and I hope that it's nominated for Best Picture. I think that this is, there's a lot of good international features this year. I'll talk about one in a bit, but it feels like kind of a front runner for international feature this year. Just how good the screenplay is.
I hope it is a shoo-in for that award, and that we get to see this film pop up a lot during awards contention, just because it's so simple and brazen with things, and it does treat characters like living people. Like, this movie just starts, and you assume, oh, this man driving this car with his family, he's the protagonist, right? And then it just keeps going, and we are revealed to and exposed to new characters, and then we kind of get a new leading man, and like everything that happens is within this film heightens your intensity, heightens your interest, heightens the suspense of just like, what the fuck are we gonna do? And it also has, like, I mentioned this last week, it's good characters in kind of a precarious situation, and they're doing a bad thing, but even throughout the aftermath or carrying out of this bad thing, they're still trying to do good. Like, they have to run to the hospital and help someone out, and I'm like, we're taking, like, it made me just so overjoyed that these characters aren't like through and through bad to the bone. They're trying to do the right thing, but also they're like, no, this guy fucked us up, and he's gonna have to pay his dues, but also we should go help out his wife because she's in labor, and that needs to get taken care of, and then we'll go back and address this issue later. So I love this story. It is very, like, matter of fact. It's very, I think, authentically written to where I'm like, I believe these people, like you said, to have existed before the film started and to exist after. It scares me what they might be going through after this film wraps up, because I'm like, that ending is so bone-chilling. But a fantastic film. It's my number 3 film of the year. I'm thrilled that you got to see it.
Yes.
And I'm happy that I didn't overhype it for you, because I was worried. Immediately after we recorded last week, I was like, I might have fucking set him up for disappointment, because I'm like, I think this movie's great. And I think I might have over-exemplified how fantastic I think this movie is, but I'm happy that you had a great time with it. A film that you and I also got time to go and experience and check out this week. It's now showing at the main cinema near us, so we got to see Sentimental Value, directed by Joachim Trier, who is the director of The Worst Person in the World, which I've actually never seen that film. I've heard nothing but great things. One of my distant cousins told me that I desperately need to watch it, and I don't get a lot of film recs from this cousin, so I was like, if this means a lot to you, I should maybe look into this. But we got a lot of big name cast. We got Stellan Skarsgård, Elle Fanning, Inga Ib's daughter. I'm so bad at names. I'm so sorry.
Couple IPAs in.
Butchering your name. And however you pronounce...
Renata Reinsve.
Thank you, because I never can say her name right.
She's great.
But she, in this film, is just a timeless beauty. Like, this woman looks painted. There are few people this absolutely stunning in the world. And she's also a sensational actress. She's fantastic in this movie. I've heard a lot of big things about this movie being kind of one of the potential front runners for Oscars and international feature. And I think that there are a lot of great performances here. I think that the story is really involving and very upsetting at times, but very relatable for most people, I think. It doesn't give me the most kind of, not that it needs to give me like a surprise or a shock, but it's very subdued in what this film is about. I also, at times, while watching it, just thought, yeah, this is what you would expect from a Oscar-nominated film. Like, it feels like it's playing to its audience too much at times for me. But I do think the performances are good. I think that the story overall works pretty well. And I had a great time watching this in the theaters. Do I think it's better than it was just an accident? No. Do I think it's one of the better international features I've seen this year? Yes. And I'm excited to kind of see the staying power of this film, even though I feel like of people that I've seen say that it's one of the best films of the year, I'm like, yeah, it's really good. And I feel like I've had more of a mild reaction to it. And of a lot of the movies I've seen this week, it's the one that I've thought about consistently the least. But Corey, what were your thoughts as you got to check this one out as well?
I agree with you there. I think that this one is really good, and I think the best international field is pretty interesting this year with It Was Just an Accident, Sentimental Value. I think The Secret Agent, which we'll talk about in a bit. Nouvelle Vague also. It's a pretty good field of stuff that's out there. But I agree. I think this one is really solid. It didn't hit me in the emotional ways that I was hoping it would.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's really good. I think that I don't really have any flaws with the movie. I think that Stellan Skarsgård as the father that kind of left his two daughters at a young age and then comes back into their life as this movie director trying to make a story that maybe initially in the movie he doesn't want to admit is very personal to him, but discovers along the way. And I think it's great of the theme of reconnecting with family and with these daughters, of kind of healing through art and through storytelling, through this movie of things very personal to them. One thing that really surprised me in this movie was Elle Fanning, who she's popped up. She's fine. We talked about Predator Badlands a couple weeks ago, but I think her role in the movie is really interesting because she is an actress that comes into Stellan Skarsgård's movie, and she's playing a role that is very similar to his daughter.
Yeah. And
she's kind of, throughout the whole movie, is trying to connect with this character, and she's trying to be like, but why is she doing that? She's having a hard time grasping why everything is happening. And I think it was a really interesting examination of an actor that is going through this role and not just doing it for the money, kind of, and being like, but let's dive deeper, and am I the right person for this? Mm-hmm. And I think the resolution of that is really kind of satisfying, too, and really wow, I like that. That's a really cool ending for that character.
Yeah.
And I think it does hit all those emotional themes. I think Renata Rensby is great in this movie. She is, I know, in The Worst Person in the World as well. I really want to watch that because I haven't seen it. But I think she gives a great performance. Stellan Skarsgård has a great blend of being this dad that kind of left, but also being a grandfather, getting his grandson movies that are not appropriate for him.
That got the biggest laugh.
Yeah.
In my theater, it was Irreversible and The Piano Teacher.
The Piano Teacher, yeah.
And he was like, if you want to understand women, you watch this. Everyone in my theater was like, wild to give a 9-year-old kid this.
And he's great. And if he won Best Supporting Actor, I'd be so thrilled. I think he's great. I don't even think he's been nominated for an Oscar, which is crazy. He also has a great line about child actors in this movie where he's like, child actors are always trying to do jazz hands in movies, essentially saying they're trying to be child actors and be like, we have to give so much, where he's like, no, this kid in this movie, that's who I want because he's just a kid and he's not trying to be that. I think it was really funny, kind of a comment on child actors today. So I think it's really a well-made movie. There is one shot in the movie that really stood out to me, which is in kind of an overlapping shot of Stellan Skarsgård and Renata Rensby, and it's just the faces overlapping and morphing. It's almost like a David Lynch or David Cronenberg movie.
It's very Ingmar Bergman. It's very persona. It's almost black and white. It's very stylistic the way it's done, and I was like, that's persona. That is Bergman type shit. So, and it works. It works really well. Because it's the biggest thing about this film that I think people can gain is that it just talks about how different people perceive things and how, not to talk too much about the title, but Sentimental Value. It's just, what do you put importance in, and how people read things differently. You have a dad that has a career as a filmmaker, and he wants to now make a film with potentially his daughter that has a lot of overlap with their own personal stories, and the daughter failing to see that, and she's like, yeah, you want to do this now, but where were you in my childhood? Not really recognizing that her dad is also a person, like an individual being who has career aspirations and stuff like that. And like, not that anyone's wrong or right, it's just they don't link up and they don't sync up in a way that makes it all so neatly wrapped in a bow and natural. Like, they all have their own desires and they all put importance on different aspects, but they do without 100% saying it to each other at a given time, because they're kind of at odds with each other throughout this film. They both love each other, and they both have like a shared kind of depression within their family. They have a shared understanding. There are things that they don't know about each other, but even with Elle Fanning's inclusion within this film, you have Stellan Skarsgård's character being like, I want you to be my daughter, but like, I also don't know too much about my daughter. I also don't know these things about her, and I want you to be what my ideal daughter would be. But also, can you play into the script that really ties back to my actual daughter? So it's really complex in what it's trying to do, and I think it does it really well. And it's a very well-made film. I enjoyed watching it. I can't imagine watching it a lot or rewatching it. So I think that that's kind of why it hasn't like stuck around too much. But there are shots like that shot you brought up specifically with the characters and their faces kind of melding together, and it's not horrific, but it's something like surreal, and it helps to paint a picture of like, yeah, these are still of the same family. Like, the issues that one person feels is felt by someone else, but in a different way. So I think that this is a good examination of kind of one of trauma a little bit, but mostly just how family members encounter things, and how it's not going to be a one-to-one comparison from person to person, because people have different vantage points. And I think it was refreshing in that regard. It didn't have, like, at times I was like, yeah, this is kind of predictable. I know where this is going, especially with the ending. But it was always, like, invigorating and refreshing. Like, I liked spending time with these characters. I liked seeing them kind of work through their issues. You do get kind of... There's a big buildup as to a kind of mystery as to what happened to our main character, or something that she would have done. And once you get that kind of really brazen, and I mean brazen in an impactful way, because this film is very subtle, this one brazen moment where she outright says what happened or what she did, and you're like, okay, I get this now. This colors things in a different light, and it makes you appreciate things a little bit differently within this film. So it's a well-made movie. I will, like you, I have no notes of negativity regarding this film. It just doesn't have the most staying power with me personally. Unlike, if I can transition, unless you have
I have one last little
thought. Go for it.
I want to just mention I love the idea they present in this movie of the home, the physical home that you're in, and the experiences that like a home experiences, where a house can, see the best and the worst, the loudness and the quietness in a family, of a daughter arguing with a dad, of when a dad leaves and everything becomes quiet. And kind of like tapped in for me of like being, when you move out of like a childhood home, and the sadness that you feel, even though it's just a building and it's just wood and just siding and all that, but the memories that you have within that, whether they're positive or negative, is very emotional too. And I think they capture that really well through some narration in this movie. So yeah, it's much like you. I think it works on pretty much every level. It just didn't quite hit all the emotional notes for me. I think it is one that is going to grow on me a lot. And I actually would like to rewatch it, just kind of knowing that, and maybe just taking it in now and being like, okay, maybe I was expecting a bit too much just from the hype of the Oscar season. But I think over time, I think this one's going to grow. I think it's in my top 15 of the year right now.
It's in my top 20 for sure. It's getting really like congested and hard to shift things around in my top 10 at least. But that 15 to 20 range, there's some like leeway. So I did really enjoy this movie. I'd recommend it to people. This was this week the most packed theater I've gone to in my life. Like, I also saw it at the Main, which is not a place where you can buy your tickets in advance, and it wasn't like pre-select seatings. It's very traditional. You walk in, the movie's already, like, the trailers are on, the lights are down, you need to try and, like, all right, Hamnet is a really dark trailer.
Yeah.
Can we get some fucking light so I know where I need to sit down? And then you just find an open spot. There was a couple this very old couple that actually kind of cracked me up because they came in so fucking late into the movie. And, like, this old woman, 15 minutes into the movie, she is, like, way off. She miscalculated her timing. And she's like, did it already start? And then her and her husband try to find a spot, and you get to see people in, like, the front row shift around so that they can sit together. And I was like, that's sweet. But, like, literally, that's how my theater was. It was so packed that there was no, like, one sole seat left. And I was so surprised for Sentimental Value, a movie in a different language that's more likely going to be in that international feature Oscar conversation. And hopefully, like, if it got a Best Picture nom, I'd be thrilled. Yeah. I think it deserves to kind of stick around, and I hope more people see it because of that. A film that Corey did talk about last week, though, that is the film I'm most excited to kind of spend a little bit of time talking about, is Train Dreams. I watched a lot of stuff this week, including The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Check that out on Hulu. It is a crazy reality show, and also I highly doubt ever in the world or in existence that Secret Lives of Mormon Wives would be offered up in the same conversation as Train Dreams, because they're very just not alike in any way. But Train Dreams is directed by Clint Bentley, which Corey brought up as one of the writers of Sing Sing, which is a sensational film from last year that we both loved. And it stars Joel Edgerton, Felicity Jones, William H. Macy, Carrie Condon, and it's just about a man's existence in the early 19th century as a logger. And it is so arresting to watch. I watched this on Netflix, sadly. I didn't see it in theaters. And not every movie, like, you should see every movie in theaters. There are some movies that I've caught on streaming where I'm like, it's fine that I'm watching this on streaming, it's okay. Like, it would have been good to see this in theaters, but it's okay. This movie, I definitely did it a disservice by waiting to catch it in theaters, or catch it on Netflix instead of seeing it in theaters. I feel like this film is some of the best cinematography I've seen this year. It's up there with, like, the look of Frankenstein. Not necessarily the style, but, like, the look of scenes in that film. It's so well shot. You have great performances from Joel Edgerton, who is very subdued in this film, and he's very underrated, I feel like, as an actor within this industry. I loved this movie. It is a very slow-moving movie. It is like a love letter to just existing. Like, this man, he doesn't have, like, the biggest aspirations in the world. He's a logger. That's what he does. He makes money to send it back to his wife and his daughter for his house. Like, he lives a quiet life in a very transitional time in the world, in American history, and he experiences things as they kind of roll and come to him. Like, there's not a lot to spoil in this movie, because there's not that this movie's not about a lot. You just get to experience existence in this time frame. And the one thing that was a massive surprise to me, and I don't remember you bringing her up at all, because I know you love Carrie Condon, but Carrie Condon's in this film. And she is a great character, not in the fact that she has, like, a big monologue or does anything massive or emotional. These are very quiet moments with characters that are just existing, and it's very relatable in that aspect. But Carrie Condon comes into this story at a specific point where in a lesser movie you'd expect her to have a romantic relationship with Joel Edgerton's character. In this film, it's just a friendship that is so 100% necessary for both people, specifically Joel Edgerton, where it's just like, I exist, I do my thing, I live my life. Things have not gone my way by horrible, nightmarish surprises, but I'm still here, and thank you for being here with me. And it's not romantic, it's just a recognition of the horrible shit that happens, but also within that, you have a lot of great stuff. And the ending of this movie was really emotional for me. You mentioned this last week. There's a moment where this man who's living through this really transformational period in American history gets to fly in a plane, and there's some narration in this film, which narration sometimes can get old for me. In this film, it really works. This is a very story, like, it feels like a book being described to you, and it works so well in that aspect. But the narration kicks in towards the end where you get to experience what Joel Edgerton's character is experiencing in that time, where he's in a plane and he's like, everything makes sense to me. Like, I am a part of the world. And this film is quietly very life-affirming. It's beautifully shot. It's expertly acted. There's no missteps similar to Sentimental Value. There's no missteps in this film. And it's always refreshing when you can see a movie that's relatively stripped back and minimal in what it's talking about, in the performances, in the story. But it moves you so much without having to do a whole lot or having that big moment or that big big climactic conflict scene. Like, it doesn't have that. It's just a good movie about a man existing and his issues that he experiences, but also the excitement he gets to experience. William H. Macy also, if he got a Best Supporting Actor nomination for this film, he's hilarious at times, but also he has some of the best, like, holy shit, I get that tattooed on my body lines. Like, he is sensational in this movie. Everyone's great. It's worth your time. It's also... If you were to describe this movie to me, I would expect, this movie's going to be, based on what I know of Oscar caliber movies, this movie's going to be 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It's an hour and 43 minutes. And it moves well. It's just so well done. It's tightly written. It's such a great... It's one of the best Netflix originals I've ever seen. It's one, and I would say it's probably the best film on Netflix currently, without a doubt. Like, Netflix original, I will say. It's the best Netflix original on Netflix that you could sit down and watch. It is very moving, and it is easily in my top 10 of the year. Such a great movie.
It's something that I hope is remembered around Oscar time, like for nominations. Yeah. I've heard kind of dark horse that it could get in for Best Picture and stuff, so I hope that that's the case. Something that actually a little double feature I did this week because my Disney Plus subscription is coming up. Prices increased by like $30. It's gonna be like $200 for the annual thing. I'm like, fuck that. Let me watch what I need to watch on here. Finally watched the Freaky Friday movies. 22 years after the original movie in 2003, the movie's pretty good. Yeah, breaking news, huh? Oh, that's a good time.
Do you get why people are nostalgic for it now?
Absolutely.
Like, it's so, like, 100%. Also just watching a movie of that era where everything looks the same now, it's so specific to the early 2000s.
And I'd seen, scenes and moments from this movie. I knew, obviously, a lot of the stuff about it. I just hadn't, sat down and watched all the way through. So I did it this week, and it really is good not to, be like, wow, this is a really good movie. Like, everyone knows that. But one of the things I appreciate the most is that with this swap between Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, is that they don't feel the need to explain how it happens, really. It's just like a fortune cookie. They read it, it happens. And that's fine. We don't need to dive into, the lore, the mythology. Yeah. It's like, no, it just happens. It's cool. And it really, is just a fun movie, but it also taps into the themes of, parenthood and being a high school teenager and the differences that you feel there and swapping and getting to experience those different things of a teenager going to a real job and hearing the phone ring 800 times a day, but then also a parent going to school and having to do a test and deal with mean kids at school. Yeah. It taps into that really well. And I just, Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are so likable in the movie. And the music is really good. The fictional Pink Slip Band, they have some really fun songs in the movie.
They have great songs.
Yeah, that's just a great time. I also love, and I'll mention it I'll kind of tie it in with Freakier Friday, but Chad Michael Murray being just a MILF hunter for Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie, or in both movies, where he's got prime Lindsay Lohan in 2003, and he's like, I'm good, but your mom, though, she's about to get married, but how married?
What's she about?
Yeah,
how's she be?
He's trying to score with a goalie, and you know what? I respect that. Just his character, and that's all he has, and I love it. And he's just a great, again, kind of early 2000s, Chad Michael Murray is so known for that. So the original movie's great. I really do love it. I'm glad I finally got to watch it all the way through. Freakier Friday, obviously came out earlier this year in the summer. And I think that this movie is entertaining. I think it's pretty fast-paced. It has a lot of the same themes of parents understanding their children understanding parents. And I think it hits that all well enough. I think that the big difference for me was the look of both movies, where the original movie looks real and looks like it's lived in, whereas a lot of movies now, we've talked about it, it just looks so digital and artificial, and everything
Flat.
is so in focus that you
Yeah.
lose the depth behind a character, and it looks just like a commercial. And it's like, it really does bother me, and I've noticed it so much lately. And I think the movie does have some kind of poor like editing and ADR moments and some continuity things that just aren't lined up really well in terms of the craft of the movie. Another thing I was confused about, I guess, is Lindsay Lohan has a daughter in this movie, and then she meets Manny Jacinto's character, and he has a daughter as well, and they're going to get married and start a family. But they say in the beginning that Lindsay Lohan decided to become a single mom, and I don't know what that means. Like, is she divorced, or did her husband die, or...
I think divorce. That's
like,
how I took it. Like, because I feel like that comes through, like, narration, or, like, Jamie Lee Curtis mentions it about her, like, she decided to be a single mom. It was more of, like, I am ending a relationship. I'm going to be single. I will raise our daughter by myself. I will be a mom.
That's what I was thinking. Just the phrasing of it, I was like, you decided to become, like, just say you got divorced. Like, just say that. I don't know. It was a weird little thing. But I also think it was a little bit, like, hard to follow who was who, because we have 4 people swapping now of the Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis, and then the 2 younger girls in the movie who are in high school.
Every scene changes. Like, wait, okay, you're this person. You're like, the first 5 seconds of every shift is like, wait, okay, you're who? Okay, cool.
Yep.
And then you're okay, and then that. Okay, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and I think, like, inherently it's just more interesting to see Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan as children, kind of, in their adult bodies doing stuff. When the children are the, adult personalities, they're not doing as much interesting things.
In school for the day.
They're just doing stuff, which is fine, but, overall, a fine sequel. It's great to see Lindsay Lohan back. Like, just making a comeback and kind of getting over the, her kind of troubled history after that initial, like, Parent Trap and Freaky Friday run. Another thing I really loved is kind of a closing point is the bloopers that they have playing at the end credits. They used to do that all the time, and I love that in a movie where it like gets you to stay for the credits and appreciate who made this movie, but also showing just bloopers of the movie. It was a lot of fun. So, fun little double feature I did this week. I think they're obviously both worth watching. The original for sure. Mm-hmm. I think the new one is pretty fun time too.
It's a good kind of legacy sequel, and I completely agree with your sentiment about like bloopers during credits of movies. I wish like when Pixar would do that with like Monsters Inc. And like it's like you guys took the time to animate a blooper for this. Like it's a
Toy Story 2 did it.
Movie. Like it's I missed kind of that love letter to like no. You guys just watched our movie, but like this is what it was like on set, or this is the fun we had, and I missed that. I had a lot of other horror films that aren't the most relevant to the films that came out this week, but I do want to mention that I watched them this week, and I would recommend most of them. And the ones that I wouldn't recommend, I still loved. It's a wild movie. But this past week, I bought the Criterion because it is the Criterion sale. I bought the Criterion of House from 1977, directed by Nobuhiko Obayashi. I believe that is the best I'm going to get, so we're going to move on. But it's about a schoolgirl and her 6 classmates that travel to her aunt's country home, which turns out to be haunted. I remember during all of October when I was watching horror films, this film would kind of come up as like the Criterion Collection horror film. To say that this is a horror film is not like a misstep, it's a stretch for me. There's a witch and there's some haunting elements, but this movie is the most spastic assault of color and weird humor and some elements of horror that I don't know if I could recommend this movie to anyone. It's a very out there film. Obviously, it's a foreign film. It's such a wild ride, though, and I've never experienced a movie quite like this, and I loved it. So much fun. I watched it with my wife, and I could feel her reaction while watching it with her in bed. I was like, you must hate this. And by the end of it, she was like, I loved that. And I was like, whoa, really? And she was like, it was so wild. It's something I cannot explain. Aside from that very basic synopsis, I've never seen a film edited or shot like this, so definitely check it out. It's so wild, especially if you're a big film fan. I want you to watch it. I don't think you're going to like it, but the form of it, the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the colors of it, I think you will appreciate. The story of it, you might not like. That's fine. But I think the way that this film was made is something so wholly original that it's a complete disservice to not check it out. I also checked out Carnival of Souls from 1962, directed by Herc Harvey, starring Candice Hillegloss. This is about this church organist that after this traumatic car crash moves to a different town, becomes an organist, and then she starts realizing, like, am I being followed? Are these souls after me? Like, what's going on? And there's a lot of atmosphere, kind of tension and questions from the characters of what am I experiencing? Is it true? Why am I not being noticed by other people? What's happening? It's a very good kind of late or early 60s horror film that really relies on atmosphere. It's not outright in-your-face scary, but it's scary in the way that I'd equate to, like, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Like, it has different forms of terror. The atmosphere in this film alone is the reason to see it. I really enjoyed this film. I had a great time with it. It's been one on my watch list for a long time, so I was happy to check that one off. And it's for a film in the 60s, it holds up remarkably well. I also checked out Suitable Flesh, directed by Joel Lynch. This came out in 2023. Joel Lynch has directed previously Mayhem with Stephen Yeun and Samara Weaving. This film stars Heather Graham, who I believe is my childhood crush to kill all and end all childhood crushes from here on out. Like, this woman, I remember watching Austin Powers, Man of Mystery, almost exclusively to see her almost take her top off. Like, and that, like, you can shit on me for that, my masochistic bullshit views, or me as a, like, 5-year-old boy wanting to see some Heather Graham titty. But I had a massive crush on this woman, and being able to grow up watching movies with her in it, not only is she a phenomenal actress, you can see it in Boogie Nights, in this film, she can handle B-rate horror, and it works so well. She plays a psychiatrist that has kind of become obsessed with one of her young patients that has, like, this evil linked H.P. Lovecraft terror, like, possession curse linked to him. So it's out there. It's a fun watch. I watched it. I had the Joe Bob Briggs double feature between Suitable Flesh and Mayhem. I watched the Suitable Flesh version, which was really cool because I got to see it with Joe Bob Briggs doing a little, like, almost commercial breaks to tell us little trivia about the movie, the making of the movie, or interviewing the director during it. So it was really fun to watch it that way. I really recommend this movie. It's a good, pretty, like, B-rate horror film that's made in recent memory. And you got Heather Graham to boot. Like, you can't get better than Heather Graham. I love that woman. If I met her in person, I'd melt into fucking slime. Like, I would immediately disintegrate. She is a beauty, but also, surprisingly, a sensational actress, and she's really good in this movie. She can do campy, she can do serious, she can do comedy. It works so well in this movie. It's a weird movie, but it's very H.P. Lovecraftian. It works. It's very haunting, and I really did have a great time. But Corey, we got a lot of fucking new releases as we're going into Thanksgiving, which also puts its own kind of, like, stilted urgency because shorter release week. We got a lot of movies coming out on a fucking Wednesday. What do we have coming out this week, though? Yeah,
so this week, a lot of stuff, actually most of it is coming out on a Wednesday, November 26th here. The first one is Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, the third film in the Knives Out franchise. It's getting a limited release in theaters. It'll be on Netflix on December 12th. You got Benoit Blanc, played by Daniel Craig, back. You have an incredible cast here. There are so many people. Josh O'Connor, I've kind of heard as the lead, but Glenn Close, Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Kerry Washington, Andrew Scott, Kaylee Spaney, Thomas Hayden Church, Jeffrey Wright. That's insane.
Amazing cast.
These Knives Out movies always have great casts, and this one kind of takes on more of a gothic, kind of churchy tone to it, which I like.
Yeah.
So that looks really cool. I'm happy that, again, they're putting it in theaters, at least for a little bit. And, you know, with the release of this movie, Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig said that they are going to keep adapting or keep making Knives Out movies. Yeah. And if you keep making good ones, I'm absolutely down for that. So keep going forward, boys. Next one we have is Zootopia 2. Again, coming out on Wednesday, sequel to Zootopia from 2016, a movie I really like and I think is one of the stronger original Disney animated movies of kind of the two, like, from since 2000. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you have Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde back. Jason Bateman, I think, is perfect as Nick Wilde. Just his voice is really great. So you're getting more adventures in the Zootopia world, which I'm excited to see. I think with the kind of lack of a lot of animated movies this year, I think this will be in the Oscar conversation for sure. And then the other kind of big release this week is Eternity, which is starring Elizabeth Olsen, Miles Teller, and Callum Turner. And it takes place in the afterlife where souls have 1 week to decide where they spend eternity. And Joan, played by Elizabeth Olsen, is deciding between Miles Teller and Callum Turner. And it looks really sweet. It looks like just kind of a nice little love triangle movie, and kind of in an interesting premise of taking place in the afterlife. I love Elizabeth Olsen. She one of the most attractive women, I think, on the planet. You talk about Heather Graham, fucking Elizabeth Olsen. Woo! She's great. And then we have a couple of limited release movies that are kind of tapping into that award season stuff. One of them is Hamnet, which is directed by Chloe Zhao, who made Nomadland, won Best Director for Nomadland. Also made The Eternals. We both like that movie a lot. Think it's underrated as shit. And you got Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal in this movie. And it's kind of a story about love and loss that inspired the creation of Shakespeare's Hamlet. And the trailers look really good. I mean, it has all the elements of an award season movie, so I'm excited to see that. I love Jessie Buckley. I think she is just put in great performances year after year after year, and this is maybe her thing where it's like, this is the one that breaks through and is like, win a Best Actress Oscar, or is like, all right, now you're this person here. The other movie that's coming out in limited release is The Secret Agent, which is starring Wagner Moura. Takes place in 1977, and he plays a technology expert that flees from a mysterious past and returns to his hometown in search of peace, and he soon realizes that the city is far from being the refuge that he seeks. I've heard great things about this. Wagner Moura, I've heard, is kind of a Best Actor, kind of in that bubble of performances there. So both of these I'm really excited for. A lot of really cool stuff this week, just across the board, of a family movie, kind of a feel-good romance, rom-com maybe movie, a little, whodunit, and then a couple Oscar movies. So a lot of options if you're trying to go see stuff with your family this Thanksgiving.
Yeah, this is a packed week. Wake Up Dead Man is the top of my list for what I need to see. I already have my tickets bought for that. I can't wait to see it with my wife. I love murder mysteries, and I think Rian Johnson has done it the best of recent memory. Sorry, Kenneth Branagh and your little Hercule Poirot films, but they're fine, but they're not on this level of quality, of absolute mastery of the genre. So I'm so excited for this. I think the cast is my favorite of the casts we've seen so far within this franchise, so I can't wait. That is my immediate need to go see. I'm also eagerly awaiting watching Hamnet. I might try and check that out Wednesday, like blackout. Maybe I'll show up to Blackout Wednesday, sad as fuck from watching Hamnet, and just ready to just pound Bush Light the rest of the night. Maybe that's the way, because Hamnet, Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal, sold. What it's about, sold. The trailers I've seen a lot, especially when I go to the main cinema, they always show it, and it gets to me already in those 2 minutes of this film. I can't wait to see it. I've liked a lot of Chloe Zhao's directorial efforts. Nomadland I don't love entirely as a film. I recognize that it's really well made, but I really like what she was able to do with the camera in Nomadland, but also especially in Eternals. I think that movie is massively underrated, and it being titled a Marvel superhero movie kind of maybe that takes some people to be like, oh, it's not that good, it's just a Marvel movie. That is one of the best made superhero films ever. And it doesn't feel like a superhero movie. So I can't wait for that. I'm excited for Eternity. I'm excited for The Secret Agent, but sadly I feel like that might be the one this week that gets kind of pushed into like homework land for weeks to come. But this is a heavy hitting week. If you're a fan of movies at all, and you like growing up, a tradition was to go to the movies on Thanksgiving with my family. I remember us seeing Unstoppable, the Tony Scott film with Chris Pine and Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving Day with my family. Movie's fine. Awesome experience being able to see it with like my cousins and my uncles, and it was so much fun. So I think it's a good tradition, but also there's so much out in theaters between Wicked, from stuff that came out last week, to what we have on the onslaught of films coming out this week. Spend some time at the theaters. You'll benefit from it, and you'll likely see something of quality because we get a lot of the best movies in this kind of chunk of the year. So I'm really excited. Moving into a physical media roundup, what we purchased lately, I already talked about the film House that I saw. I bought the Criterion Blu-ray because it is that big Criterion sale going on, so I need to capitalize on that a little bit before Christmas kind of chips over, and then I need to stop buying things altogether. Bought House, watched it, loved it, excited to add it to my collection. I also bought the film Barry Lyndon, the Criterion collection for that, the Criterion Blu-ray. I don't do the Criterion 4Ks just because I don't have a 4K player, so I just typically resort to the Blu-ray because I'm like, that's $10 cheaper. But Barry Lyndon, Stanley Kubrick's my favorite director. Barry Lyndon is the only film of his filmography that I have not seen. So I'm really excited to sit down and watch that eventually. I also purchased this morning a steelbook from Zavvi US. Their steelbook Blu-ray. I pre-ordered the Superman 2025 steelbook, and I'm so eagerly anticipating that because the original run of their steelbooks that went out immediately sold out before the movie fucking finished its run in theaters. So I bought this steelbook. I spent way too much for a fucking movie, but who gives a shit? This is my little treat for Christmas, I guess. Can't wait to get that in the mail sometime in December.
It's sad that we don't have, with Black Friday coming up, it used to be, you and I went out for a few years of going to Target, Walmart, Best Buy, Barnes & Noble.
Hitting all the big ones, yeah.
It was great, and I miss that so much, I really do, and, Walmart has like a couple things on sale, and you mentioned the Criterion sale, which is great, so I'll definitely be going out and buying a few things this week, and I know, Target last year had a small little section, little 10 movies in the middle of an aisle. I don't know if they're going to do that again. I might stop by just to see if they do have that.
Every year they phase out more and more to where it's like, when is the year that it's just nothing?
Nothing, yeah. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll have more updates in terms of that. Coming out this week on Blu-ray and 4K, we actually do have a lot of stuff. One of them is The Long Walk, which I'm very excited to buy that movie eventually.
It's good steelbook, too.
Yeah, really nice. Conjuring Last Rites, also very good steelbook. I love the black and red artwork.
My favorite poster for that movie.
Mm-hmm. We have Anemone, Coyotes, The Roses, Bone Lake, Eleanor the Great, Lurker, and Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, as far as stuff from this year. And then a couple re-releases are Eyes Wide Shut and Pride and Prejudice on 4K. So a lot of stuff. If you like physical media, again, go to Barnes & Noble, 50% off on Criterions if you want to check out some older movies. They have a lot of classics. They have Silence of the Lambs and Dazed and Confused, Princess Bride, if you want to dive into a lot of the smaller foreign movies, maybe.
But also, that's one of my favorite things about the Criterion Collection sale, and also just the Criterion Collection as a whole, is that you could just, blindly pick a random movie. You're going to get something interesting. Even if you don't love the movie, it's well made. So, that is almost like a perfect shopping spree for me, is if I just blindly went to the Criterion Collection section of Barnes & Noble and just grabbed one at a whim, I would get something important and something well made. Even if I don't love the movie, doesn't really matter that much, honestly. It depends on what you're going through for a viewing experience. But immediately Lurker is the one that stands out for what's coming out this week, just because I've heard really good things, and I'm like, maybe that will stick around for Oscar contention. I feel like the kind of conversation about that has died out a little bit, but that was initially, I'm like, oh, is that going to be a front runner this year? But I don't know, and that's the one that has interested me the most in the coming weeks as we're getting into that big Oscar push. In terms of movie news this week, we had a fuck ton of trailers this week. I started doing the show notes Wednesday of this week, and then a bunch of other shit came out. But we got a trailer for Pixar's Hoppers. We got a second trailer for Project Hail Mary that shows us way too much. We got The Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Reaping, the first initial trailer for that. We got a second trailer for Wuthering Heights. Surprisingly, sadly, stupidly, we got a live-action trailer from Moana. We got We Bury the Dead with Daisy Ridley, and then we got a Return to Silent Hill trailer. I'm going to say my favorite trailer that I watched this week. I didn't watch all of these because there are movies that I don't give a shit about. I will likely end up seeing all of these movies, but there are some that I'm like, I don't need to see the trailer. I'm just going to go see it. I loved the trailer for Return to Silent Hill. I don't know much about the Silent Hill games. I've only seen, what was this? Silent Hill Revelations or something? The second Silent Hill movie. It's ass. It's not good, but the concept has always worked really well for me. And I really liked the trailer, so I'm excited to see that because it is a more small-budget horror film and an adaptation of a video game, so I can't wait for that. Moana, that live-action trailer can rot in hell with every vile, horrible, bad thing that's ever happened. I think that is absolutely disgusting for Disney to put out. Corey, for you, trailer-wise, what stood out to you this week?
The big one for me was Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Reaping. I mean, I am kind of a newer fan to Hunger Games. I watched all the movies before Ballad and Songbirds and Snakes, 2 years ago, I think it was, and just really got into the franchise, and I think that they're doing a smart thing of kind of going back to the past, and this is the second quarter quell, the 50th Hunger Games with Haymitch. And you have a great cast. I mean, you get to see Jesse Plemons a little bit. McKenna Grace. Jesse. McKenna Grace is in the movie. You just have a really cool cast filling it out there in a different time period, which I think is smart of them to do. So that one looked really good. Yeah, fuck that Moana one. I think
that is disgusting.
That trailer came out as we were recording last week's episode, so we didn't really mention it. But it looks so animated in a bad way.
Why are we making a movie that's 9 years old?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, I get it if it's like a cultural thing of like, oh, this film from Korea, we want to make it for Western audiences. I kind of get that. I disagree with it, but that one I understand more. This one, same company. Just let's make it live action.
Yep.
And also let's make it... This is the most animated live action film I've ever seen in my life. Like, it looks so fake to a T. Like, just watch Moana. Again, it's fantastic. We can all acknowledge that. Don't double dip on a movie that was profitable for you. Disney, fuck off. This is some horrific live action adaptation bullshit that you're doing again. And it's the dumbest kind of recent trend with live action, or Disney films specifically, because they're like, fucking Mulan? Fucking Snow White? Everyone's gonna love this. No one's gonna see it, because it's dog shit. Put care into what you do, or don't do it at all. Fuck off with Moana live action. I almost said a bad word.
Well, the thing is, it's gonna make $1 billion.
If it does, I'm gonna be so, like...
Just like Lilo and Stitch.
Fans need to just have a backbone. To be like, you know what? I supported this enough when it originally came out. What I got out of it was fantastic. I can just revisit the good thing that I already have. I don't need to go and support and give you money tenfold again for a similar property or a rehash of a property I'm already familiar with. It's bullshit. It's uncreative. It's just slop. It is, hey, piggies, come to the trough because I got your brown shitty slop on sale. It's hot and ready. Get a licking. Let's go. That's what this live-action Moana trailer is. It is one of the worst things I've ever seen as a film fan. It is disgusting. I'm going to stop.
100%. I can't disagree at all. The Return to Silent Hill trailer, yeah, I'm interested. Like you, I don't have exposure to the games. I haven't seen either of the movies, so I'm excited to watch both of those before this one. But into just a couple of Game of Thrones spin-off series announcements. They put out a thing this week that we're going to have a Game of Thrones series, reportedly, I guess. They could be canceled or moved around, but every year for the next few years. So A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is coming out in January of 2026, and then House of the Dragon Season 3 is in summer of 2026, and then Night of the Seven Kingdoms Season 2, 2027, House of the Dragon Season 4, 2028. So a lot of Game of Thrones stuff coming over the next few years. I enjoy it. I'm a Game of Thrones fan, but I like House of the Dragon. I like both seasons a lot. Probably I like Season 2 more than most people, I would say, but I kind of am cool with that show. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is another sort of prequel that I don't want to judge it before I see it, but I don't know if we need it. But I'm happy to get more in this world and just build out. There's a lot of different stories and characters, just generations of families in this narrative. So I'm excited for that, and just nice to have kind of a roadmap of where we're going.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Game of Thrones show because I've never watched an episode of anything Game of Thrones, but I know it brings you a lot of joy. So if you're thrilled with it or optimistic about it, I'm optimistic for you. So I'm excited for you to get these spin-off series. The one that actually I will say, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, that one I've seen like the posters. I'm like, maybe that's my entry point. I don't know. They're all kind of like different time periods, so I'm like, maybe I just start at a random spot and then maybe I'll circle back. But in terms of the MCU, we got a lot of Marvel kind of developments regarding the cast or whether a cast or a character is going to show up in a property or not. Marvel Studios did confirm this past week that Jon Bernthal's Punisher will not be in Daredevil Born Again Season 2. We have Punisher returning, obviously, in the special presentation in 2026 for the Disney Plus Punisher show, or a little hour-long experience we'll get with him where he is breaking out of Kingpin's prison. And we'll also get him later on in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Also, on top of that, from Spider-Man Brand New Day, we have announced that, or they announced a while ago that Sadie Sink was going to be a part of that cast. She is going to then carry over and join the cast of Avengers Secret Wars, marking a major casting boost as Marvel ramps up development on that highly anticipated multiverse adventure. So we have some people not showing up in some places and some people carrying over. Who is Sadie Sink playing? Is she an X-Men character? Is she a Mary Jane Watson in this universe that's more like accurate to the comic book representation of Mary Jane Watson? who knows? I'm excited. I like Sadie Sink. I'm more excited for Sadie Sink in this than anything to do with Stranger Things Season 5, even though that's like knocking on the door, going to be coming out this upcoming week, which we didn't even talk about.
Oh, shit, yeah.
We got Stranger Things Season 5 to look forward to.
Fuck, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, we dropped the ball on that, but I'm sure I'm going to watch all of that with my wife, and I'm going to be like, it was good, not great, because that's how I feel about most of Stranger Things. But, yeah, Punisher not coming back for Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. Kind of a surprise just based on how that first season wraps up. I guess we have to see how that Punisher special presentation kind of ends and resolves itself to see where Punisher goes next. And then Sadie Sink being in Avengers Secret Wars, sure. You're adding talent to a project I'm already excited about. I'm not going to fault it in any way. So I'm excited for kind of both developments. I'm more intrigued by the John Bernthal thing because I like what we've established in the MCU run of Daredevil.
I'm excited to get another special presentation. It's been a few years since we've had one, so
Werewolf by Night was fantastic. Yeah. Do more of that shit. That is I like that more than your series. Do that.
Yeah, the Guardians holiday special is pretty fun. Just a nice little addition.
Good Christmas movie.
Yeah, just a good little addition there. So I'm excited for that. So I guess Labubu, you know,
I know nothing about Labubu.
I have like a couple of coworkers that talk about these things all the time. It's the little plush doll things, I guess. I think they originated from China, and I don't know. I guess they're just a popular thing right now. Sony's going to make a movie about it. I don't know if it's going to be live action or animated. They're kind of determining that. There's no like creative team, but they said they're going to make a movie about this.
There's no creative team. They're just like, that's hot today. Let's do that.
It's literally just. Yeah, I know you haven't seen the studio, but it's just like the studio being like, what can we make that is popular right now?
That we can get money off of immediately.
That we can do this. And that's really what this is. You know, life imitates art, I suppose. I have no reaction to this. I don't know what these things are, really. I just know that they're little dolls, and they'll probably phase out in a year, and then the movie will come out, and people are like, well, this kind of ended a year ago when you announced this movie. It doesn't really matter anymore. So I don't know. We'll see.
I'm so unexcited about it. It screams emoji movie, like just some bullshit bottom of the barrel.
It's just the Kool-Aid Man movie they try and make in the studio. It's crazy.
So I can't say whether or not I'm going to be seeing that movie at all. Actually, I can say probably not. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a franchise that is near and dear to my heart. I love those movies, those original 90s films, that trilogy. Fantastic. And I love the TMNT movie from 2007. And then Mutant Mayhem is the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie ever put out. I love that movie. It's fantastic. It's some of my favorite animation I've ever seen. But that franchise has kind of wavered throughout the live-action attempts. We did get like the more John Liebsman, Michael Bay, whatever those fucking movies were in the 20-teens. They're not great. I got some enjoyment out of them. But that franchise is gearing up for a live-action reboot with Fast and the Furious producer Neil H. Mortis in talks to lead the project for Paramount. Joined by original film's co-founder Toby Asher as a fellow producer, signaling a major kind of revitalization for the TMNT on the big screen. There was announced a while ago, which I think has since been reported widely that it's being canceled. I don't believe that's 100% the case. It looks like that TMNT, The Last Ronin, R-rated film, that live-action movie, is just on hold for now. Not necessarily 100% canceled. And then that TMNT Mutant Mayhem, that sequel, is still scheduled and slated for September of 2027, which that's the one I can't wait for. Do whatever you want with the rest of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle world and project and promotional material, all that shit. Do whatever you want. I just want Mutant Mayhem sequel because that film was fantastic. I love that in theaters. So I'm excited because I love these fucking little turtles. Why not? Give me them all. I love Donatello. He's my favorite. Corey, what's your kind of takeaway on these?
Yeah, Donatello is your favorite. It's crazy. I know that.
He's the smart one. I like if you're talking about Power Rangers, the blue one. He's the smart guy. Give me the smart character in any team up. That's the guy I'm rooting for.
I think Leo's my favorite.
Yeah, Donatello, I will say, has the weakest fucking weapon.
A stick.
He's just got a bow staff.
It's like stick.
Okay, like fine.
Everyone on Ruff with the fucking size or whatever.
And then the nunchucks and Mikey. It's like, okay, that's better.
So. Yeah, that's great. I don't really need another live action TMNT movie. We saw how that worked out, and they looked kind of atrocious a little bit. We don't need that. It works really well in animation.
There were flashes in those films of like good TMNT
good ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love the shows. I watch the animated shows, like both the old version and kind of the 2000s version. I love both of those.
My phone ringtone is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Hell yeah.
Heroes in a Half Shell, like that shit. That is my ringtone, which as a 25-year-old male that works in like a semi-professional setting, when that goes off every once in a while, because my wife's like just randomly calling me, it's like, oh, sorry. This is the most embarrassment I experience. I'm like, oh, fuck, sorry.
Whose fucking ringtone is that?
Like, sorry,
like, whatever.
it's mine.
But, I mean, I'm excited for that Mutant Mayhem sequel. And then The Last Ronin, I think, like, I want to see that story. I know you've read the graphic novel or comic book. I don't know who is the last Ronin in that, so, like, I'm trying to keep that a secret. Yeah. Not trying to have that revealed, so I would love to actually have a movie or however they want to do it, live action animated, if they were to bring that back someday. So, I'm excited for a couple of these things. The live action thing, meh. But we do have Vikings-Packers on right now.
Yep.
We started recording a little bit earlier. It's about halftime, so we're going to catch the second half. We're down 10-6.
I think
10-6.
Just make a field goal.
Made a field goal going into half, so we're going to get into that and probably be disappointed later. Hopefully not. We'll see.
I also have a full bladder from the 2 IPAs I had, so I've been really just swinging my legs like a kid on Christmas, just waiting to open his presents. So we're going to end it here today. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok for more in-depth movie reviews and movie news. Go out and support theaters. I don't know what your kind of Thanksgiving family tradition is, but there are so many great things coming to theaters this week. Great things that are already currently in theaters. Go support the theater industry. They need it now, especially more so coming off of that anemic October that we just had. So support movies. There's great things to see with your family. Regardless of what your interests are in, you can find almost anything in any genre you want. In film, it's not just about what's on screen. It's also about who's next to you in the theater.
For Mason and I at Slate Night, that's a wrap.